Hey there, Shakti Sundari here, and just wanted to talk to you a little bit about my new course in Shakti Yoga. We're doing a deep dive every Friday morning into the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, and this week, this Friday, we just started. We started last week, a week before actually, where we began at the very beginning with the first sutra in the first book and a little bit of an explanation about the Yoga Sutras. And this Friday, the 11th of September, we're going to be exploring the second sutra in the Yoga Sutras. Now, in my Shakti Yoga class, the whole emphasis is on exploring these sutras from a more feminine perspective, and the whole ethos and accent of my Shakti Yoga teaching is to bring in an awareness of the divine feminine and a more feminine approach to yoga itself. So it's been really interesting as I've gone back. I love studying, I love reading the sutras in the Sanskrit original and then looking at various translations. And there's a very standard translation which I think a lot of yoga teachers or students of yoga will know, which is this book by Swami Satchidananda, the translation of Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. And it's kind of like the yogic Bible. But when I first picked this up, many years ago, it just put me off instantly because I found it so dry and so it just left, it was dry. There was no resonance, there was no appeal, very, very, very mindy. But, yoga is about the body, the mind, and the spirit. And I just didn't get that from this exposition at that time. Now, fast forward to now, and when I'm teaching Shakti Yoga, which is yoga for women with a divine feminine accent and understanding of the inclusion of the heart, the sexuality, the womb, the body, and so on and so forth. And I have a different text I've been referring to, which is Nischala Joy Devi's book, The Secret Power of Yoga, A Woman's Guide to the Heart and Spirit of the Yoga Sutras. And it's just brilliant, immediately the sutras become accessible, they resonate, I feel them. And as a woman, I need to feel them. I need to feel them in my body and my heart to be able to teach them, these sutras. And it's beautiful because now I've found a way to access this wisdom for myself, and in a way that I can then transmit it to my students and those who come to my classes in a really authentic way. And what has this got to do with condoms? Well, it's just, it really made me chuckle because this second sutra, right? I love these sutras so much in the Sanskrit. Sanskrit's a beautiful language. It's a divine, sacred language. It carries an energy, it carries a transmission of sacred truth. So I'll do my best to read the Sanskrit first so you hear it, and then the translation is what's got something to do with condoms. Yoga, citta, vritti, nirodhah. So I'll read it again. It's very short. These sutras are very short. Yoga, citta, vritti, nirodhah. So, 4 words. Yoga, citta, vritti, nirodhah. Yoga, citta. I'm going to summarize it really quickly. When you come to my class, or if you come to my class on Friday, I'm going to talk and teach to this at greater length, but let's just say for now the citta refers to the mind or the consciousness. Vritti, modifications or ways of changing and modifying. Nirodhah, now this is where we come to the way, depends who's translating. When you read something, right, you think it's the truth. But particularly when we come to translation of an ancient language, you have to look at who did the translating, what was the context, the historical context, the gender context, and of course, so much of yoga was written down by men and transmitted orally before that. But then the teachings, once they became written down and coded, were very much within the patriarchal framework, right? So nirodhah is translated as restraint. So I looked up the meaning of this word restraint. So in its entirety, this sutra would translate into English in one frame, in a very patriarchal frame at least, as the restraint of the modifications of the mind is yoga. That is Satchidananda's translation, in fact. Now, this leaves me completely cold. I would think, God, I don't want to do yoga if that's what it's about. Luckily, we have other translations like the beautiful one by Nischala Joy Devi, where she offers something completely different. Yoga is the uniting of consciousness in the heart. Now I'm interested. Now I want to know more about this practice, which is, yes, if you think about yoga in the West, everyone thinks it's about becoming super bendy, and being able to stretch your leg up high and all that. And the focus is very much on the physical in the West. The physical aspect is a tiny aspect of yoga. Yoga is a complete practice for personal spiritual growth and transformation. It's a practice for self-realization. That's what it is. Yoga means union to yoke. So the translation really makes a difference to your understanding and your perspective on what you're going to take from this practice right from the get-go with these opening sutras. Yoga is the restraint of the mind, or yoga is the uniting of consciousness in the heart. Which path do you want to take? I'm not judging either. I just know which one I prefer and which one I'm going to teach because it resonates for me and I can totally convey that message. So, the condoms, yes. So, that word at the end, yoga, citta, vritti, nirodhah, different versions of that. Let me just put my glasses on. That meaning nirodh, restraint, extinction, suppression, imprisonment, coercion, enclosure. So, you really get the feeling, don't you, there of, right? And so that's what the Swami Satchidananda is saying you've got to do to your mind to achieve yoga. Well, yeah, that might be one way. It's not the way I teach. But then the funny thing is, as I was looking up that word and its Sanskrit translation, I discovered that back in 1968 in India, they introduced the very first brand of condoms, so that they were, it was kind of the very first push for public contraception and birth control. And you know what that very first brand of condom was called? It was called nirodh. Same word, same root word that's right there in the Yoga Sutras. So that's what condoms have to do with the Yoga Sutras. Now, I could go on a whole lot more about that whole idea of restraint and suppression of sexual energy and sexuality, which again is completely the opposite of what I teach in my yoga. In my Shakti yoga classes, it's all about harnessing, awakening, and opening the body to receive that beautiful sexual energy and work with it as a force for awakening. I do believe that that kind of very patriarchal, dogmatic idea of suppressing your desire or suppressing your sexuality is really, well, we can see it hasn't worked. Look what's happened in every world religion around the world. A lot of abuse is what's been happening. So that doesn't work, guys. But anyway, Yoga Sutras. If you would love to join me, or I would love you to join me, deep dives every Friday, 9 o'clock in the morning, London, UK time. Friday morning deep dive is an hour and a half class. So I do like a 15-minute teaching about the Yoga Sutra. And then we have an hour and 15 of practice, exploring, integrating, and embodying each Yoga Sutra. I also create a playlist specifically for each sutra for each week on Spotify that you can play to go with the class. And the class is recorded, so you can repeat the class as many times as you like for the next 7 days. And if you can't make it 9 o'clock UK time, well, just do it on catch up. As soon as you've paid, you get the link. So that's the Friday morning class. And also just to say, there's another 2 classes I also offer. Monday mornings, 7 o'clock, Awaken. So a more energizing class to get your energy going for the week. And Wednesday evening, 6 p.m, Decompress, which is a class to de-stress and relax and just let go midweek so that you keep your energy going. It's so important at the moment, isn't it, right? So that's it. Yoga, condoms, Yoga Sutras. Join me for the deep dive this Friday. And if you want to know more, I'll pop the link below for how to book and a little bit more of a description of what it's all about. Love you to join me. Lots of love.